Welcome to this new video about Yubikey, in which I'm simply give you my 3 top reasons why a developer should choose Yubikey. And conversely, if you are a developer and you are given a Yubikey or you bought a Yubikey, which are the 3 top scenario as a developer I'm using for Yubikey? Let's discover. Well, first of all, there is login to GitHub. So if you are a developer, it's impossible you don't have a GitHub account where you publish some open source project, or the vast majority of companies are using GitHub for storing company code. And also if you are using not only GitHub, but also GitLab or other provider, usually everyone supports Yubikey. So the first scenario is using your Yubikey to log into your GitHub account and to use it as a second authentication factor. Account security is paramount. So as a developer, you should use two-factor authentication on all of your important accounts. And GitHub is surely one important account. But one thing that is that prevents people from using two-factor authentication is people tend to find it annoying. You need to get your phone, you need to open your Google authenticator software, blah, blah, blah. But now Passkey solved this, and Yubikey is completely compatible with Passkey. Here is in my GitHub account login, I can sign in with Passkey. So I have my software ask for a PIN, then I can enter the PIN, touch the key, and I'm in. Here's I'm typing my PIN. I'm touching the key, and I'm in my account. So performing a login in a very secure way in my GitHub account, it's just a matter of typing a PIN and touch my key. And this allows me to have a very secure way of logging in my account. Then I can choose a super long password stored into my password manager, but this is my everyday way of logging to my GitHub account. And since the login is so easy, so simple, you can even configure your browser to kill all login cookies when you close the browser. So if for some reason, some attacker gain control of your computer, the cookie get deleted and you can log it out maybe even after each session, because it's so easy to log in again. Second scenario is also related to GitHub, and it is using the PGP functionality of the key to sign the commit. So this is important because sign-in commit in Git, it's the only way to ensure that you indeed are the author of that commit, and no one can forge a commit simulating your identity. If you're not using sign-in commit in your organization, it opens the risk for someone to forge a commit on the name of another user and trick someone to push that commit inside the code base. With verified commit, you can verify that each commit it's made by an author. And GitHub Yubikey helps you to have these results, because with your Yubikey, you have your PGP identities always with you. You can use in different computer, and it's just a matter of typing the PIN, and it's optional, touch the key, and your commit are verified. So this will make extremely simple to verify your commit, so developer has no excuse to enable verification of commit for their GitHub or generally speaking, Git identities. You have all the details in the link below that links to my other video about sign-in commit with your Yubikey. But the end result is when you look at a commit, you have a verified icon on GitHub that allows you to say, hey, this commit is verified from an author. This is the key of the GPG, and this is the user to master Git that made this commit. So there is no way for an external attacker to simulate a commit for this user, because this user is using verification. It's just a matter of touching your key. So there's no excuses for not using this very important feature. And clearly the third scenario is SSH, because as a developer, you really need to use SSH. Even if you are not only a Linux developer and like me work primarily on Windows, but now we have good SSH support on Windows, so we can log in with SSH on Windows. We sure have some sort of remote server in which we are using Linux and we are using SSH. And we all know that using username and password for SSH is not the best option. And using a certificate can become cumbersome because you need to have a very strong password for the certificate. And in this scenario, YubiKey can save your day. Now, suppose you want to log into a remote server with SSH. I simply do SSH with my address of the server, and the system is going to ask the PIN of my YubiKey, and I'm touch the key and I'm in. So the only thing I need to log in on my remote server are a PIN and my YubiKey. So even if I'm on a computer of some other person, I can extract public key, or I can simply use my YubiKey with a private key if I need to connect to an SSH machine that already knows my key. And the nice thing is that the private key that is inside your SSH folder is not the real primary key. It's a simple shim key that points to your physical YubiKey. So you can go to an untrusted computer, a computer that is used by multiple people. You can copy your private key inside your .ssh folder and be sure that no one can use that private key if they don't have the real YubiKey you have. So the key is always with you and allows you to log into a server with just typing the PIN and touching the key. And as usual, if you lost the key or if someone stole your key, they have a limited number of tentative, 8, to try the PIN. After 8 failed tentative, the credentials inside the YubiKey are destroyed. So you don't have to worry about someone use your YubiKey without your consent, even if you are using a PIN that is only composed by number, because a PIN of 8 digit is sure against 8 tentatives. So this is a very important way of logging into your SSH or using SSH, because it's really secure. It has a modern protocol, and it's the key is securely stored inside your physical key. And I have a latest question that I got not so frequently, but I got it. And it's how can I update firmware of my YubiKey? Because in the latest years, we don't have a lot of new feature added to YubiKey. But if you bought the YubiKey years ago, it is possible that you find sometimes in the documentation you can use this feature only if the firmware of your key is greater than a certain number. And the answer is no, you cannot update the firmware of this device because that's one security requirement. If someone is going to be able to update the firmware of this device, it is possible that someone put a vulnerable firmware that is capable to extract the private key from this thing. So it is not possible to update the firmware, and all the private key you're using for logging into your GitHub account, for logging into SSH, are securely stored inside the key. And this is the real good aspect of having YubiKey. As a developer, you can take this key always with you. You usually have other key as a backup in case one key is stopped functioning or you lost it. But with a key, you always have all the identity you need to access your important account, like GitHub. You have all your PGP keys you're using to sign your commit or sign a secret file with you. And you have all the credentials you need to access your SSH server always with you. And these are the three main scenarios in which the YubiKey is really useful in everyday developer scenario.